Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, we had CPAC take place over the past week. I was there. I was in attendance, got to meet some people and some politicians. So, it was nice meeting you guys if I did see you there. However, CPAC also had Donald Trump in attendance. It did not have Ron DeSantis in attendance. It had Nikki Haley in attendance and some other presidential potential hopefuls as well. And they do their annual straw poll at CPAC. This year, it's in D.C. I don't know if they're going to be doing a second one in Texas. Last year, they did one in both Orlando and one in Dallas, just like in 2021. This year, maybe they're changing things up, going back to only holding one conference. Whatever, either way, I would prefer that they would put on multiple. And it's important because you get to kind of gauge the straw polls in the different locations. And that is interesting. And we'll talk about it and compare it to the past straw polls too in this video. But Donald Trump won the straw poll at CPAC DC over Ron DeSantis by 42 percentage points. And this is simply the case. Nikki Haley was down there at 3%. Perry Johnson, who is a candidate from Michigan, he ran for governor, got disqualified, and he's just running, I guess, just to run. He's like 75. He's almost Biden's age, too, which is pretty funny. But he was there at his own booth. He got 5%. Nikki Haley got below a very minor candidate, one could say, in the race. So Perry Johnson coin is expanding as we speak. Nikki Haley is an utter disaster, and we know that. And she actually spoke there. I believe Johnson may have spoken as well. But Ron DeSantis was not in attendance. And we're going to talk about in this video if CPAC is really all that representative. And we'll also touch on elements of what Trump said during his speech that I think is going to propel him to be the nominee regardless, so long as he is able to stay on message. And we're going to be discussing that. But first, I have to tell you guys about redeaglepolitics.com. Make sure to sign up at just $5 a month or 16 cents a day for a basic membership. You get access to all of my exclusive videos that will not make it out onto the main channel. Got a couple coming later this week. We also have our Discord server, as well as several articles that have been written by the team there, a part of the newsletter. So make sure you guys sign up, redeaglepolitics.com. It's well worth it. You get extra content. So we'll be discussing the straw poll now. And Trump got 62% of the vote. DeSantis was down there at 20%. Now, DeSantis skipped the conference. And it's a very possible thing that him not being there, that him not giving a speech, kind of hurt him among the attendees because he was kind of an afterthought. Trump was the main event. He was like the main course. Obviously, you had Haley speak, whatever. Nobody cared. She was accosted by a lot of Trump supporters, actually, I believe, as she was leaving. They didn't really like accost her. Like, they didn't like confront her necessarily, but they kind of mobbed around and they were like chanting Trump, Trump, Trump. And she got embarrassed, as is tradition with Nikki Haley. And her whole presidential run is an embarrassment. She's running to be somebody's VP and is probably going to end up being nobody's VP. But furthermore, DeSantis not being there was kind of a bad look, one could say. Where was he? He was at the Club for Growth event. He was giving a speech for them with some other people, whereas Donald Trump was there at CPAC. And obviously, CPAC is still kind of like a donor class type of clientele, especially in Washington, D.C. But one could say that it's kind of more open to the people. But of course, you're going to have like the DeSantis people that are going to come out and say, well, CPAC is basically Trump PAC now, so it doesn't matter. And it's like, no, that's not entirely how it works. Their clientele, if anything, is more like of the political establishment than not, one could say, especially being held right next to Washington, D.C. That's where you have your Beltway style of conservatism thriving. But still, either way, Donald Trump among the base, among the people that went, with a commanding 42-point lead. And it kind of shows that the whole DeSantis thing, there are some polls we've seen with, low sample sizes in some of these swing states that have had it relatively close to even. But either way, one could say this is an online phenomenon with the whole neo-never Trumpism, and Trump really hasn't lost a whole lot of support according to these straw polls, especially when you move CPAC from a state like Texas to the Washington, D.C. metro area. D.C. was one of the states, I think he got like single digits in the primary there back in 2016. But either way, he still is maintaining a strong advantage. Also, Northern Virginia, he lost those counties to Marco Rubio. I do think he won Maryland, but that was after everybody dropped out of the race. So furthermore, I'm not entirely sure that Trump has lost a lot of support. I don't think CPAC is really that representative of the population, but still, the truth is Trump has a big base and he's not going away. And that's very true. And I think it's also important that we touch on Donald Trump's speech, because now you say, okay, well, maybe he has enough support to win a primary, even if the straw poll may not be representative of the entire GOP electorate, especially the GOP electorate in those first 4 states like Iowa, New Hampshire, although you could argue that Trump could even do better in those states than he did in this straw poll when push comes to shove. But the truth is that he's still going to need to work for this nomination. It's not going to be 2020. The RNC is not going to hand it to him on a silver platter. If anything, they're going to be pulling out all of the stops on him to make sure that he does not succeed. And that is true. But he went out there at CPAC, and in my opinion, he gave the best speech that he has given since the end of his presidency. Arguably the best speech that he's given since that epic July 4th speech in 2020. And we could talk about the energy. We could talk about the energy of the speech. Because no, he's not exactly 70 years old, just like he was back in 2016 when he was going on the campaign trail, just spitting absolute fire with that little gruff, little subtle growl in his voice. But either way, it doesn't matter. Because past a certain point, energy, one could say, is irrelevant, because a lot of those people back then were saying that Donald Trump was too off the cuff, he was too crass, he wasn't measured, he wasn't presidential, which again, I don't think that we really need that per se, and I think that the base could argue which Trump is better for electoral success, whatever. But either way, the content of the speech that he gave was phenomenal. He did not miss whatsoever. He hit on all of the right cylinders. His policy has arguably been the best it's ever been, and that is true. And he was going out there, he was attacking the donor class. He said the GOP will never go back to the days of Karl Rove and Mitt Romney and George Bush and these warmongering neocons. And that was the message back then. And that is the message right now. The message wasn't really anywhere to be found in 2020, but it's back. The messaging is back. He's attacking the donors. He attacked Paul Ryan. Basically didn't mention DeSantis by name, which I think would have solicited a mixed crowd reaction. But furthermore, what we do know is that he was attacking these donors, a lot of these people that are propping him up. He went out there, attacked the neocons. He called for us to stop our intervention in Russia and Ukraine unless we could just go out there and settle them. Again, he touted his negotiation skills that he had during his presidency. He's basically saying, I'm the guy who's going to stop us from getting into World War III. And, he went out there, compared and contrasted his administration with Biden's administration. And he even called back to the 2016 populism side of things. He actually is expanding on that. And that is a very good thing, in my opinion. He is somebody who's talking about the birth rate crisis. He never mentioned that before, even back in 2016. He's talked about the need for a new baby boom. What can he do to help couples have children, get married, and raise the birth rates and raise the marriage rates in this country, just like Hungary did. They raised it up in Hungary. Their birth rate's still below replacement level, but it's much better than what it was before. And if we do that here, we can get the birth rate above replacement level in the U.S., which would be a very, very good thing. And back in 2016, one of my favorite things that he said during his RNC speech is he said, I am your voice. I'll be your voice against these special interests in Washington. And he went out there and he called back to that. Take a listen to this clip right here.
We don't have free press. We don't have free anything. In 2016, I declared, I am your voice. Today I add, I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution. Not going to let this.
So he's saying, I am your retribution for those who have been let down by this system. And that was his same message that he had back then, but he's taking that. And the energy, obviously, one could say he's not as young as he was. That goes without saying. But he still went out there and he gave a great speech for 90 minutes, arguably his best speech in years. And he went out there and said, I'm your voice again. He said, I'm your retribution, talked about things that need to be talked about, that haven't been talked about. And if this is the Trump we get the rest of the way, he is going to win. He only mentioned 2020 once. He also talked about the need to ballot harvest and have drop boxes in our areas, in churches, etc., and beat the left at their own game in these swing states so we can win elections once again. And he's 100% accurate. That's 100% true. We're not going to be able to win elections in the future if we are not going to be able to beat the left at their own game. And finally, he's talking about that. And he's probably going to be mentioning that in nearly every speech over the next 2 years or so leading up into the general election, which really does say something. He's not going out there and doubling down on the GOP's poor strategy. If he did that, I think a lot of people would really start scratching their heads, especially people that care a lot about electoral politics. But either way, he won. And there are some people out there that got interviewed in this New York Post article that talked about this. A New Jersey building inspector said that he cast his straw poll for the former president, saying, I already know that he knows what he's doing. And when he gets there, he doesn't need this on-the-job training. He knows exactly what to do. He said DeSantis is a good governor. It's not his time yet. I think Trump has to finish what he started there. I think that a lot of Republican primary voters agree with that tagline, which again is why I'm saying that I think it's important that Trump needs to be careful about how he attacks Ron DeSantis. He needs to attack him in terms of his past congressional record at the national level, say he's being propped up, say he's been a good governor, he's good on certain cultural issues, he's done a good job, he should stay in Florida. But if you take him and you prop him up to the national level, there's no guarantee that he's going to be the same. I have a proven record. I'm going to expand on it. I know how to navigate the swamp now. If that's the message, he's going to cruise to a victory in this primary. And you could tell they were not happy. The media was not happy with Donald Trump's speech. They're going out there and they're attacking him the same way they did during his presidency. He's wildly dishonest. How are his supporters doing this? They're saying he's dark MAGA. Again, it was a dark pledge, just like they called his speech back in 2016 at the RNC, one of the greatest speeches of all time, a dark speech. And they're going out there and they're talking about, oh, all these people that are affiliated with Trump, this, that, and the other thing. They're attacking him now. Why are they attacking him now? Because they know that he is a serious threat to them once again. And he still is, by the way. He still is. And has he really lost support according to the straw poll results? Again, like I said, is this fully representative of the Republican primary electorate? No, but the people that say that CPAC is Trump PAC, it's like a bunch of MAGA people, that's not entirely true either, especially when you put it in D.C. and you have the midterms, which were not politically advantageous to Trump or Trumpism, and you see him going from a 45-point lead to a 42-point lead. Yeah, no, he's not really losing support, and you have a lot of people scratching their heads, just like in 2016, as of why. Back in early 2021, in Florida, he was up 55-21, and that's DeSantis' home state. Then July in the Texas CPAC there, he won the poll by 49. February in Florida, Trump won it by 31. August in Texas, he won it by 45. Now in D.C., even though it seems like if you live on the conservative side of like electoral Twitter or whatever, that it's all doomed for Trump and that DeSantis is cruising to victory, he's going to put his hat in the ring, which again, if this keeps up, he may not. It probably would be politically advantageous for him not to, but Trump still with a commanding 42-point lead at CPAC in Washington, D.C. Incredible. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.